US President Donald Trump has followed through on his tariff threats. He has signed an order to levy 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico. He also set tariffs of 10% on Chinese goods. The measures are due to come into force on Tuesday. The announcement has provoked immediate reactions from the countries concerned.
The race to undo decades of international trade partnerships is on. Even though the threat had been looming over major U.S. trading partners ever since Donald Trump's campaign for president included talk on tariffs, there were stunned reactions across the globe to the newly announced tax hikes. Canada and Mexico were both quick to retaliate.
Like the American tariffs, our response will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, including orange juice, along with vegetables, perfume, clothing, and shoes. It'll include major consumer products like household appliances, furniture, and sports equipment, and materials like lumber and plastics, along with much, much more.
Mexico's president took to X to voice her country's concerns. She said that Mexico was not looking for confrontation, but added that her country was forced to impose its own tariffs in defense of its interests. Both Canada and Mexico will mimic the U.S. numbers and implement in their turn a 25% tariff rate on U.S. goods. China, too, reacted to the announced tax hike of 10% that will be added on top of existing Chinese duties. In a statement, China's Commerce Ministry slammed Washington's, quote, erroneous practices, saying Beijing was strongly dissatisfied with them. Beijing said it would file a lawsuit at the World Trade Organization, arguing that the United States seriously violates WTO rules. Canada's premier added that his country is also considering non-tariff measures, including limiting the export of critical minerals and energy. He appealed to Canadians to prefer domestic goods to help the economy.
There are many ways for you to do your part. It might mean checking the labels at the supermarket and picking Canadian-made products. It might mean opting for Canadian rye over Kentucky bourbon, or foregoing Florida orange juice altogether.
Other U.S. trading partners around the world, including the EU, are now waiting to see who will be hit next by Trump's tariff plans.
We are now joined by the economist and podcaster Carsten Brzeski. Carsten, these tariffs, can they still be averted or are they a done deal now?
Well, they become effective on Tuesday. So there still are almost 48 hours to negotiate, even though I think that there is no room for negotiation currently. I think we really have to understand and to learn that Donald Trump is not only barking, he's also biting, and he's really delivering all of election promises. So he will make these tariffs really implemented on Tuesday.
Now, we're talking about Canada and Mexico there, first and foremost, and China. But what are the consequences for Europe?
Well, of course, we will already feel this, that there is really a trade war going on. You listened also to Trudeau here. So this is now a confrontation on all places. And we all know that the EU is also on Donald Trump's radar screen. We know this from the election campaign. The only difference right now is that there is still a reported investigation, official investigation going on, which then will be concluded before April 1st. So I think Europe needs to be prepared that come April 1st, Donald Trump will also impose tariffs on Europe.
Are there other countries or other regions of the world that need to prepare to find themselves on Trump's tariff target list?
I think almost every country needs to be prepared currently. And that is also the interesting thing, that countries are better prepared than 8 years ago. Listen to Mexico, listen to China and Canada. This is a completely different situation than 8 years ago. 8 years ago, we hardly had any imminent reaction by the governments in case. So they only tried to use diplomacy to go into talks with Donald Trump. This time around, we really see that all these countries are pushing back and are also going for confrontation.
Now, could we call this a trade war already, or does a proper trade war look different, and what would it look like?
Well, it can always be worse, of course, but this is clearly the start of a proper trade war. If one country unilaterally starts to impose tariffs, the others then are reacting with also unilateral tariffs from their side. This is a tariff war. This is a trade war. And of course, especially if this is now really about the largest economies in the world, US, China, Canada, also the EU coming in there. This is clearly a fully fledged trade war, which of course can still further escalate.
And briefly, please, in which way will that damage the world economy?
A trade war, trade tension means that in the end, it's the consumer paying the price for it in higher prices, and it's going to be all economies suffering. So a trade war doesn't know any winners. A trade war only knows losers.
Carsten Brzeski there, chief economist for the ING Bank in Germany. Thank you very much for your analysis, Carsten.